Howdy, lieutenants and economists.
The most volatile, evil, disgusting things on the planet, humans. If you have a video request, you can always go to assholeconsulting.com.
Yeah, I am gonna charge you, kids. And that is the importance of not fucking up.
You are such an asshole!
Alright, I think this will be the last one for the day. Oh, then we gotta go run in the gym because it's raining. So, a young man writes, "Hi Aaron, I have a new question for you. Is it likely that this ultra-feminism movement will reverse once women realize that being an extreme feminist hurts them and the society in general more than helps? Is it possible that these, quote, accomplished/professional independent women will realize one day that they are not the heroes but rather the victims in this game of trying to be just like men? If so, or not, or if not, why? Please provide a quote, and thank you," from Anonymous. All right, well, I took a little notes because I want to sit and think this one through. But to answer your question, no. They some every once in a bit rarely do, but empirically what has happened is no, it hasn't. If anything, the West in general, not just the United States, has moved more left and more feminist, to the point it's absurd, to the point it is really tearing the country apart on its most foundational level, and that is when a man and women fall in love to form families. Not that that's their only purpose, but I'm saying at that level, we have yes means yes. We have feminists truly planting in the minds of college kids, presumably the smart ones, the really independent-minded ones that, "You're the so intelligent, independent mind. I'm a college student. What should I believe? Okay." They got people believing false rape accusations. They got people believe that there's a rape epidemic. They got people believing there's 1 in 3 people being raped. They got people believing that, simply regretting having sex the day after his rape, or the guy looked at you funny, irate. I mean, the feminists have not had any, what's the word I'm looking for, where religion goes through a self-inflection, or the Christianity went through a reformation, saying, well, are we really doing good? It has become a full-on political and self-serving movement, which is part of Marxism, and you could say that's conspiratorial, but the feminists keep asking for more government money, and some even say the goal of feminism is Marxism. So I'm just saying, if you look at empirically what has happened, no, the feminists have kept going. So empirically, they have not woken up or realized. Now, some have, but the vast majority of these old feminists, and we're not talking Susan B. Anthony or Elizabeth Stanton, okay? We're talking our modern day feminists, and that's another bit of empirical proof. Not only have feminists are no longer the, hey, we want equal rights and suffrage and equal treatment under the law. They're going to these extreme, slut walks and all this other, to the point it's a mental illness. These are not, women with philosophical thinkings and, okay, well, we're, this is America, and, they don't deeply think about political philosophy and what is meant to be free. So now we have just basically a bunch of hate-filled psychos out there. And not all feminists are psychos, of course. You have the girls like, I'm a feminist because that's what for the treatment of women. And the ditzy ones who don't really know what's going on. But it has become even more extreme and vulgar, and in a hate group, I would say, a genuinely bigoted group of people. So we do not see any sign, as a whole, of women waking up and realizing this. Come on, look at how many times you got to hear a story out of Sweden of girls holding up welcome refugee signs and then they get raped? It's hilarious. So basically, there's not a lot of older feminists that have apologized or regretted or looked back. Every once in a while you might get a Christina Hoff Sommers in there, but that is the exception and not the rule. And then on top of it is just the complete swallowing it whole by younger women, younger generations of women, anything from 40, full-grown adult women to, high school age girls, heck, even maybe middle school. So let's put it this way. It's one of two things where we're talking empirically. I'm just answering your question. It hasn't by using, okay, what's happened? Well, they haven't. Well, here's why I think they have not realized the damage that's being caused. One, I really do believe this is a religion. And like all religions, there's no empiricism, there's no proof. It's a belief that they want to believe in. And a lot of times they use religion, like most people do, to make up for a lack of agency, purpose, or accomplishment in the world. I mean, you look at the vast majority of feminists, they're losers. They don't achieve anything but parasitism. They don't achieve anything. They're not independent. They rely on government checks. They rely on government subsidizing academia. They rely on unfair affirmative action rules and laws. So they're not real achieve. Oh, is there an achievable? Yes, I'm sure there's a CPA out there who's a rabid feminist. Please don't email me about her. But by and large, your feminists are the losers and the parasites of society. They need other people to pay for them, and they don't really work real jobs. So since they have no real work, they have no real accomplishment, they have no agency, no purpose, they certainly don't have families. If they do, it's not a ton of kids coming out of that, that realm. They have to fill that void with something, and they fill it with religion. They fill it with feminism. Some people use drugs, some people use Christianity, others use let's blow up the infidels, and feminists use feminism as a religion. So there's no reason, there's no rationalization, there's no scientific method. Let's evaluate what the results have been. Have we succeeded? Are we happy? This is a crazy question they ever ask. You don't see a lot of happy feminists. It doesn't matter. You're asking the wrong questions, and you are misunderstanding their incentives and their desires. They want a conflict-free, cognitive dissonance-free world. They want their religion, and they don't want to think about it. The other thing is, I think down the road, some women regret it, and a handful might actually, I don't want to say repent, because it's not like you were doing something wrong or sinful, but they make changes like, I'm voting Republican now, I'm voting Libertarian, I tore up my Now card, I'm not donating money anymore, I became a STEM major, I stopped bitching and whining, I started supporting my husband, whatever else. They're also very rare. What I think ends up happening is these women, starting young, starting brainwashed from middle school on even, by the time they're 25 and they've got their master's in, lesbian literature studies, whatever the fuck it is, they have invested all that time. Even if deep down inside they may realize that's a mistake and they're wrong, they're so vested into that system by now they can't. It's buyer's remorse. They cannot admit that they're wrong. Their ego and pride, well, one, their ego and pride won't take it, but two, they cannot face that harsh reality that they just pissed away a quarter of their life and all their youth. And then that just gets worse and worse as time goes on. The costs build up only from there. Soon you're a 40-year-old feminist. Well, you're not having kids. You're not having a loving husband. Well, your pride and ego will get so much in the way because the religion is so strong. Like, I don't need a man. I mean, seriously, this is where we could get back to MGTOW, because the parallels between, Virgin-TOW and the feminists is, thou dost protest too much. Like, if you really didn't want women in your life, like you're one of these Virgin-TOWs or the quote MGTOWs, the fake ones, well, then you would just go and do your own thing. Or atheist cult. Like, well, if you're an atheist, it's like you want this out of your life. No one's stopping you. You don't have to date women. You don't have to go to church in this country. So you would think you would hear very little from atheists and MGTOWs. And true atheists, you don't hear anything from because they're doing their own thing. True MGTOWs, you don't hear anything from because they're going their own way. And true feminists, I would say there's some out there, they're just like, no, I'm for the equal treatment of men and women, and that's about it. And this shit show we got going on with fake rape and mattress girl is no, I'm for the equal treatment of women. But it is this, it is the fact that they actually have regret or uncertainty or concern that they've pissed away all their life and they can't. So they got to reconvince themselves and double down with even more radicalism, even more extremities. Or extremeness. It's not to get you. I mean, look at Trigglypuff over there. She's yelling and screaming at the Republican thing. It's like, dude, why don't you just write a post or something? What is it like? No, that's a person who has mental issues, or at least inner conflict about what they're achieving with their life. Well, and that's a perfect example there again. This gal's fat acceptance. Instead of admit that she's been wasting her youth and she could have gotten laid if she just hit the gym. she doesn't want to admit that she's been wrong this entire time, and she wasted her first 25 years of life. So she has to convince, not you guys, but herself, that you're the enemy, that you guys are wrong. And so I think there's a lot of that in feminism as well. And why you're not going to see a lot of, you're just not going to see a trend. I mean, it takes a lot of intellectual honesty and intelligence to admit, yeah, I fucked up, I was wrong. What can I salvage with the rest of my life? Okay, I got 30 years left. I mean, so, and, you know, and then by the time you're a 60-year-old feminist who's been committed and you didn't need a man, fish bicycle, I mean, you might as well finish off the remaining 20 years of your life just being a bitter, pissed old woman. All right? You might as well. Because you can't, I mean, what else do you have at that point? I mean, seriously, once a woman loses her youth and her beauty, what else you got? I mean, unless you're, you know, a professional engineer or you really spend time with children or another religion. I mean, what do you got? You got nothing. No guy's going to marry you. I mean, they might. Or it ain't going to be Hugh Jackman or George Clooney. And you certainly ain't having kids. But and then, I mean, here's another perfect. Why do you think there's such a huge obsession with like this in vitro fertilization or surrogate parenthood or like postponing? Like I could still have a baby at 63, or the grandmother in Europe has a child at 72, and they just trump that in because they don't want to think this is any cost to the life that they've led under feminism. They don't want to think there's a cost. They just basically are cowards and cannot admit they wasted their life. This one shot on their planet, gone. And that's I think where a lot of the vehemence and vitriol and anger comes from, and why I don't think you're going to see them admit they're wrong or admit that they've paid a dear price, pretty much their lives. They've paid the ultimate sacrifice, their lives they gave up. I mean, they're alive, they didn't die on a battlefield like a soldier, but they just pissed it away. So, another thing, why I don't think they will admit they're wrong, or maybe they know they're wrong, but they'll never admit it, and this will never come to an end, and we'll get there though, is that while feminism takes its toll on women in terms of finances, or not finances, except when they major in women's studies and they don't have a job and then they have $200,000 student loan debt. Okay, so there they take about, but usually the biggest price women pay is what they sacrifice in terms of family, a psychological happiness toll they pay, and an emotional toll they pay. Because biologically, women do like men. Maybe not as much as men like women, but women want to have children, women want to fall in love, women, you know, this is a pretty normal thing. So it goes against, feminism goes against that. So it causes at least conflict, but this is also why I think you look at happiness studies, women are not as happy because they're working and they got their dream, they got their feminist dream. But whereas there's that cost to pay, feminism does pay financially, and that is through government replacing husbands. You get a government check now. The husband usually is like, well, you can't just sleep with any other guy. You're married to me, so no. And typically was the breadwinner, so there'd be at least some strings, financial strings attached to it. Like, no, you can't buy that purse. The kids need food. You know, no, you can't have that car. We need to get a smaller house. So when you replace the husband with the state, and the state will sell you, or will give you all the money in the world for a song called A Vote, it pays a lot. Women get all this, they get student loans for school, but they'll get scholarships, they'll get affirmative action, they'll get grants, they have entire industries made for them to create make-work jobs. I mean, look at elementary education, if not most of the education system. Do you think that is anything more than a babysitting operation? Don't tell me it takes me 13 years to educate a kid from the age of 5, let alone a kid should be in school at the age of 5, to the age of 18, and they're still not prepared? Well, that's assuming, that operates from the premise that you assume education is there for the children, when in reality it's not necessarily just for women. Certainly there are plenty of men taking advantage of eating at this trough as pigs. It's just there to employ teachers. Well, in elementary school, the easiest thing to teach, and I don't want to hear any of you people talk about, I used to be a teacher, so fuck off. It's a joke. It's not real work. It's babysitting. You don't need that. Daycare. I mean, come on, let's go. I mean, at least daycare, you got some other crying kids. You know, they're not 5. These kids are shitting their pants. You got to change their diapers because mom's career is more important than raising her own children. Anyway, so there is Huge financial incentives. Time off. Oh, you get maternity leave. You get 3 months a year off as a teacher. You get all these grants and scholarships, preferential treatment, and not to mention the constant you go girlism and everyone's cheering you on. It pays to have the state, both at the federal, state, and local level, give you EBT, WIC, TANF, housing allowance, everything. I mean, it pays financially. So there may be a psychological toll. They may be lonely, but they got them government cheese coming in for them. Another reason, third reason, I don't think you're going to see the feminists recant or turn around and say, oh my God, we're ruining ourselves, let alone society. Too much has been invested in this system. The Democrat Party wholesale is owned by women by basically saying, we will replace your husbands, we will replace men in terms of the financial providers. So the government is going to do whatever it can to ensure that feminism continues on and that they at least somehow convince women they don't need men. Academia, part of the government, because government finances so much of it, if not is it, especially K through 12, not to mention is also an employment vehicle disproportionately for women with no skill, I might add, by the way. And you can remember I was a teacher, so fuck you. They're too well invested into it. So you're not going to get, and these are like, government does the laws, academia does the brainwashing. You start at kids at the age of 5, 6, 7, or 8, and you go girlism and all that. This might be, if we were to get rid of public schools tomorrow, this might be a debate 20 years from now when that first generation of non-brainwashed women and men come online. But right now, because it's government-controlled, government-sponsored, it has such a skewed feminist, leftist, pro-woman, pro-girl agenda. It's going to be 20 years before these kids, 20 years, they'll be 25, and then maybe they'll be dropped out into the real world. Then it's going to take another 10 years for them to realize the real world doesn't work that way. But by that time, they're 35, 40, and by that time, they're going to double down or nothing because it's already over for them. So I think, unless there are major changes today, it is already it's like growing trees, and the Democrats and the left and the feminists are real good at this. They will plant trees to be cropped, to be harvested 18 to 20 years from now when these girls can vote and go to college. And then along the same lines, and now to even provide further example that feminism is not slowing down but increasing, the biggest push now is corporate social responsibility and the private sector, corporations, just going rah woman. We all celebrate the lean in or butt in chick, band bossy, who's the gal who took over a shitty corporation, made it even shittier. She wasn't no Barbara or Lori Lerner from the Shark Tank. This was just, it is, these women have not done it. It's just rah feminism. The gal in charge of Yahoo, that gal, whatever her name is. And on top of it, how corporations are just bending over backwards, not even because they believe in it, but because they're doing it for marketing, and they want, this is the new, like going green is a thing. Now corporate social, look, we're pro-woman. Like, Intel, there's another perfect example. Intel's bending over backwards to get non-Asian and non-white males. So you now, and if it's creeping into the private sector, it ain't slowing down. So if anything, it's going to grow over the course of our time. Now, I do believe, though, feminism will end, and it's going to end in one or two ways. One, it's going to run out of money. Because feminism, by definition, well, not by definition, but by what it's purporting to be, is parasitic. It consumes more resources than it generates. And in the long run, no system that consumes more than it generates is sustainable. Okay? So the constant requirement of government bailing out women for stupid degrees, the single mothers, the producers might go gold, or there'll just be less producers because more and more people being raised by single-parent households, and the kids come up dysfunctional. But with the kids, they're always given to the mother, so we need more government money to pay for the kids, not once and twice with education, but thrice when they start committing crimes so they don't pay back their student loans. And there will be, and maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, maybe not even the next 50 or 100 years, there will come a time where if it grows too big, like if it doesn't stop and it grows too big, it will tank the economy. It will take the government budget. And you can already say this is happening because technically, since we're running deficits, what we're doing right now is not sustainable. And everyone will go, oh, you know, it's the military complex, it's the wars, total wars. It's like, yeah, you obviously then haven't looked at the budget because the majority of our money is not spent on the Department of Defense. It's on bailing out other people of their mistakes, which isn't all women, of course, certainly, but is disproportionately caused by feminism, single motherhood, women on TAM, for, you know, women, infants, and children, WIC. Not a lot of guys on that program there. So, then the other thing that will happen, we can see this happening in Sweden, is due to demographics or immigration or whatever else, you're going to have a truly patriarchal society come in and just kill them, wipe them out, and not give a flying fuck. That would also then trigger running out of money, because if you get enough people from a different culture that doesn't believe in feminism and is not going to be willing to pay the taxes to support a government, an academia, and et cetera like that, or in the case of Islam, where it's like you also have religious and cultural things where it's just like, you're not going to school, you're not driving, we'll kill you if you don't, we'll rape you. That will bring about a real quick end to feminism as well. And this is why I love watching Sweden. Sweden is such a fantastic show. I saw Marvel's Captain America Civil War last night. That was a pretty good show. I admit it was pretty good. It's not as entertaining as watching these dumb broads in Europe holding the welcome refugee signs and then somebody gets raped, or even better is when you got these leftist genuine feminists who hate Western civilization so much, who perhaps hate themselves so much, they get raped at a refugee camp or sexually assaulted, and they don't report on it, or they don't do it because it goes against the religion. And as you perfectly point out, they are getting so hurt by this, not necessarily refugees, but feminism, that they don't realize it. They are that wedded to this ideology, this religion, this cult, this fanaticism, that they're willing to be violated. If in some cases murdered, it'll happen, don't worry. And they still go cheering on for leftism and feminism. You're not. They're lemmings. They're sheep. You're the robots. Good luck talking to them. They've been programmed. They've bought the funny farm. They're off. So that's the only way. The only two ways I really see it ending. So anyway, it will end. Feminism is not sustainable. Marxism is not sustainable. Socialism is not sustainable unless you're in Norway and you have a ton of oil. But for the don't worry. I don't think we can stop it. Like I said, so much has been invested into this system, into this infrastructure. I would try and lower your tax bill as much as possible. But seriously, man, they brought it on themselves. This is how we vote. Nobody put a gun to people's heads saying you got to vote in this shit. People willingly voted this in upon themselves. And there's a post I wrote called "Do Western Women Deserve the Protection of Western Men?" And I've pointed out, if you look at voting patterns, women tend to vote for a larger state, which is what all of Western civilization, the past 5,000 years of it, was fighting against. It was for the individual to get rid of the government, get rid of the state. And so we had a pretty good go of it with the American experience. But now women have, not in unison, but disproportionately, between 60 and 70% voted consistently for a larger state. And with feminism, you really get some hate and some other aspects that are not nice. But just enjoy it, man. Just sit back and relax. Because of all the things I can't say of all the things, but one of the things I really loathe about feminism is the hubris and arrogance and how they think they're so smart. And it's like, okay, here you go, sweetheart. Let's see here. And so Sweden, since it's not that big of a population, and they're so leftist and they're so feminist, I love watching it. I thoroughly enjoy watching the news come out of Sweden. And then watching our, people over here not even pay attention or provide cover for. I just enjoy it. I just enjoy watching Europe get this happening to. And I feel pity for the honest people, but this is what happened, people. This is where you didn't like yourself enough to stand up for yourself, that now you're getting raped and you're still so wedded to that ideology, so wedded to that leftism, that you won't report it and you won't do anything to stop it. So enjoy the decline. It's a great book. It's not just a phrase, it's a book I wrote called Enjoy the Decline. Really, it's a great book. But not only read the book, but truly do enjoy this decline. Best of luck. Toodles.